$3 million in assets were liquidated as a result of fraudulently signed property documents and a documented violent altercation that took place inside an Atlanta residence, including a bodily strike and an immediate police call. When Mendeecees Harris found the paper trail revealing Yandy Smith's private cash transfers to a man named Michael Aducey, he did more than just confront his wife. He put up a methodical archive of wire transactions, encrypted text logs, and hotel registry dates spanning over 18 months. According to police incident logs and an affidavit filed in family court, the altercation turned violent when Mendeecees produced bank ledgers showing thousands of dollars simultaneously leaving Yandy's personal accounts and going directly into Michael's designated entity, as well as financial receipts proving he had personally taken out high-interest loans to pay for the house. The physical attack captured on home surveillance footage resulted in a challenged paternity issue, an unreported marriage certificate, a secret non-disclosure agreement, emergency injunctions, and an instant legal lockdown. This was no longer a personal dispute. It became a multimillion-dollar ongoing investigation into assault and fraud. These are the exact documents, sworn testimony, and bank records that brought this enterprise to an end. The collapse of what was once believed to be an impenetrable reality TV empire did not begin with a sudden screaming brawl in front of photographers. It began covertly in Georgia's notary public desks, title transfer offices, and bank vaults. Mendeecees Harris and Yandy Smith's mutual survival through legal battles, unwavering dedication, and cooperative enterprise shaped the public's opinion of them for many years. Behind the carefully planned red carpet appearances and polished social media updates, though, was a completely different reality. A systemic liquidation of personal wealth, increasing debt, and unequal financial leverage would eventually create the conditions for an unprecedented human and legal catastrophe. To understand the extent of Mendeecees and Yandy's breakup, it is necessary to look at their family's financial situation over the last few years. Sources close to the couple's legal counsel claim that after Mendeecees returned to civilian life, the power dynamics in the relationship began to radically shift. Mendeecees began leveraging all of his assets in an effort to obtain valuable commercial real estate and restore his financial independence. He carefully sold off portions of his private investment holdings, obtained leveraged commercial loans, and engaged in high-stakes real estate transactions. The primary objective was simple: invest in the high-end lifestyle talent management companies and brand expansions that keep Yandy Smith's name at the top of media call sheets. Mendeecees saw every dollar spent on their common ecosystem as an investment in a shared future. He granted high-interest personal loans, liquidated private accounts, and pledged personal property titles as collateral for short-term liquidity in order to sustain cash flow via their joint accounts during times of low productivity. Because he believed the woman beside him shared his level of commitment, he willingly put himself in a risky financial situation and sacrificed his personal safety net. Subsequent forensic audits and private financial investigations conducted by Mendeecees' legal team, however, paint an entirely different picture. While Mendeecees was selling properties and exhausting his own resources to cover insurance, business costs, and mortgage needs, large sums of money were covertly departing shared access corporations in the opposite direction. The early warning flags were not disclosed by LHHATL tabloid reporting. They appeared in routine tax returns and property title inquiries. Mendeecees discovered that significant residential properties were being refinanced without his full operational expertise. To save these houses from going into foreclosure, he had personally taken out high-yield notes, documents that showed peculiar signatures on corporate documents, missing escrow funds, and enigmatic wire transfers made at odd hours of the night began to surface. Mendeecees' investigations concerning missing capital or delayed returns on joint ventures were met with administrative avoidance, defensive arguments, or guarantees that the assets were simply being moved into tax-sheltered holding firms to protect the family's long-term tax liability. Mendeecees believed his partner and accepted these explanations without realizing that the missing money was not being invested in corporate bonds, family trusts, or commercial real estate. It was aimed toward a completely different secret life. The financial drain was unchecked for months. Mendeecees has effectively placed himself in a challenging circumstance. His personal credit score was associated with millions of dollars in debt. His personal property holdings were either sold or heavily encumbered, and his liquid assets were at an all-time low. He has funded an extravagant lifestyle, while effectively depleting his personal net worth to zero. When an independent accountant was attempting to restructure a joint commercial loan that was about to default during a normal audit, the truth eventually came to light. The accountant saw several frequent wire transfers from accounts directly funded by Mindy's personal debts that had nothing to do with the business. Vendors, production teams, and internal staff were not receiving the funds. They were frequently moved into private accounts connected to a third party, Michael Adusi. Attendees examined monthly transaction statements while seated in the accounting office, realizing that the same loans he had taken out to provide for his family were now directly supporting the lifestyle, travel, and personal costs of another guy. The financial trap had abruptly closed, setting off a chain of events that would lead to a violent altercation, the dissolution of a marriage, and a family court appearance. The revelation of the cash trail was just the start of a far more sinister disaster. Equipped with forensic banking records, Harris of Mendeecees did not immediately launch a loud public outcry of charges. Instead, he hired a different private investigative firm to monitor the digital and physical moves connected to the regular wire transfers. The detectives found more than simply financial fraud over a 3-week surveillance period. It exposed a well-orchestrated side life that Yandy Smith had completely concealed from her spouse, family, and millions of followers. It was remarkable how much evidence the detectives had collected. It had timestamp surveillance footage, cross-referenced mobile tower ping data, and extensive hotel register files from prestigious establishments in Miami, Atlanta, and New York. The records confirmed that Yandy regularly used corporate alias accounts linked to Michael Adusi to check into luxurious flats while Mendeecees was traveling for work or managing their residences. Flight manifests showed itineraries for international travel that had previously been given to Mendeecees as routine solo talent management business visits. Even more damning were the intercepted text message logs from shared cloud storage accounts, which showed private conversations, joint financial planning for assets outside the marriage, and explicit discussions about keeping Mendeecees completely in the dark about the arrangement until their joint real estate holdings could be fully liquidated. The boiling point occurred at the couple's gated Atlanta home. Unexpectedly, attendees arrived with an actual binder including all of the printouts, bank records, hotel invoices, and audio recordings. According to testimony later provided to lawyers, the initial conversation began behind locked doors in the main suite. Mendeecees laid down the documents on the table and demanded a line-by-line explanation for the missing assets and the verified paper trail connecting his wife to Michael. What had begun as a financial dispute quickly escalated into a furious physical brawl. Witnesses in the area claimed to have heard yells raised when the evidence became unquestionable. When Yandy allegedly attempted to dismiss the documents as fictitious setup attempts by external foes, Mendeecees showed an intercepted conversation note. A clear audio recording shows Yandy mocking Mendeecees' financial difficulties while discussing giving money directly to Michael. That one music clip demolished any lingering tranquility in the room. The verbal dispute swiftly devolved into severe emotional instability. When Mendeecees learned the entire scope of the betrayal and the complete destruction of his financial independence, he seemingly lost control. While he bled himself dry to protect her reputation, he pressed forward, yelling that she had deliberately destroyed his life. This resulted in a violent altercation that ended with Yandy taking a hard strike to the face. Domestic servants immediately intervened to separate the two after the first shouts, and the sound of the physical blow echoed throughout the premises. Yandy immediately reported a violent marital dispute to emergency dispatch services, after retreating to a safe part of the house. When law enforcement officers arrived on the scene, they could see the psychological and physical devastation. The cops reported that the floor of the premises had physical red stains, shifted furniture, and financial documents all over it. Instead of attempting to flee, Mendeecees remained on the scene and provided the investigating authorities with the exact documents that had sparked the violent altercation. He freely recognized the physical blow and the vocal outburst, describing it not as a single act of random violence, but rather as the chaotic breaking point of a man who had been systematically tricked, misled, and financially devastated by the person he most trusted. Police body cam footage recorded Mendeecees' repeated remarks. "She took all I had worked so hard to create and gave it to another man, selling my life out from under me." Officers secured the area, noted the physical injuries, filed an official incident report, and characterized the incident as a domestic attack related to an ongoing financial dispute. Yandy denied an emergency medical transfer, but she allowed the accompanying paramedics to document the obvious facial injuries for official police records. Emergency interim protection orders were immediately established to keep Mendeecees off the property and to create an immediate legal buffer between the two parties. Within hours of the police leaving the house, word of the domestic call and the accompanying physical assault began to spread through legal channels. Private bank vaults and sealed marital beds were no longer used to store the story. The police report was officially documented. Once the evidence binder was placed in legal custody, the stage was set for an unholy public fight that would permanently demolish the remaining vestiges of their public dominion. The initial police response at the Atlanta residence was just the start of a war that quickly expanded beyond a standard investigation into domestic abuse. Within 48 hours of the protection order being put in place, Mendeecees Harris's legal team filed an emergency move in family court, asking for a total freeze on any shared corporate firms, real estate holdings, and liquid bank cash. The extensive list of exhibits in this brief stunned the legal community as well as the general public. A sworn statement asserting that rather than merely having an extramarital affair, Yandy Smith had surreptitiously signed a legally binding marriage certificate with Michael in a foreign nation. The court was presented with an extremely complex document trail. Public record searches that were cross-referenced with international registration files revealed a private ceremony that took place in the Caribbean, complete with signed marriage licenses, business co-ownership documents, and joint estate planning documents prepared under a secondary legal identity. According to the court documents, this second marriage was deliberately kept a secret so that Yandy could continue to exploit Mendeecees' credit line, tax statuses, and public image to secure high-value entertainment contracts while simultaneously building a whole other financial portfolio with Michael. While the court was dealing with the initial emergency asset freeze, Mendeecees' lawyers subpoenaed medical data, which led to a second, far more explosive revelation. During a required discovery period pertaining to health insurance claims and combined medical bills, documents exposing a recent series of high-risk prenatal consultations, blood panels, and ultrasound records at a private clinic in Miami surfaced. While the clinical evidence confirmed an active pregnancy, genetic chronological indicators cross-referenced with Mendeecees' travel history definitively ruled him out as the biological father. The pregnancy was directly caused by Michael. When the pregnancy and secret marriage were revealed, what had already been a nasty separation became a disastrous legal dispute. Mendeecees' attorneys quickly added charges of civil fraud, deliberate infliction of emotional distress, and systematic grand larceny to their files. They asserted that Yandy had deliberately manipulated state marital laws under the guise of protecting a shared marital estate in order to get Mendeecees to sell his own real estate holdings and obtain high-interest business loans. Whereas, in reality, those funds were being used to support the child of another man and establish a new family. Growing legal pressure and the potential for significant financial responsibility prompted Yandy's attorney to launch a counteroffensive, claiming that the financial and medical information was obtained by illegal digital wiretapping, physical theft, and unauthorized access to private cloud servers during the tense confrontation in Atlanta. They filed emergency requests to seal all court records. Additionally, Mendeecees' team demanded that the district attorney prosecute Mendeecees for domestic violence to the utmost extent feasible and filed formal criminal charges for the physical strike. The intention was to obtain a global civil settlement by using a potential criminal conviction as leverage. A full-scale attrition campaign swiftly emerged from the legal deadlock. Mendeecees issued a non-negotiable ultimatum through his principal attorney. Yandy had 72 hours to sign a full surrender of all rights to his liquidated assets, give up exclusive ownership of contested real estate titles, and agree to a comprehensive non-disparagement agreement. If these requirements were not met, Mendeecees threatened to make the entire unredacted digital repository, which contains voice recordings, explicit text threads, security footage of the altercation, and offshore bank transfers, publicly accessible and turn it over to federal tax authorities for independent fraud investigations. As both legal teams dug in, formal cease and desist notices were exchanged. Holding corporations were shut down by court-appointed receivers, and multimillion-dollar real estate projects were at risk due to frozen bank accounts. The carefully constructed facade of a power couple had completely been replaced by a violent, high-stakes conflict over financial survival, criminal culpability, and personal devastation. Before we wrap up today's analysis, let us clarify that this video was made exclusively for public debate, entertainment, and opinion. This information is not intended to disparage, target, or meddle with anyone's personal affairs. Furthermore, beyond what has been reported in the public press, we make no claims to offer definitive knowledge regarding their private matters. Despite the intricacy of relationships, personal struggles, and high-profile events, our goal is simply to analyze pop culture media-related topics as a lighthearted commentary piece. We encourage readers to evaluate this information impartially and without making any unfavorable judgments because we respect everyone's right to privacy. We now wish to have a direct conversation with you, our community. Our main goal in discussing these topics is to engage our audience and discover your unique perspectives on media narratives. How do you feel about how these instances have been covered by the media? Do you think public opinion is a normal part of being in the public eye? Or do you think famous people are unfairly scrutinized? What do you anticipate will happen in these dynamic circumstances? Please share your thoughts, hypotheses, and courteous opinions in the space provided for comments below. As we read your responses, we are grateful for the diversity of viewpoints within our community. If you enjoyed this analysis and would want to hear about future pop culture analyses, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. You won't ever miss an upload if you do this. Thank you for watching. Please keep the conversation respectful in the comments. We'll see you in the next post.